In this video, we're going to work out the derivative of 1 over x squared. So 1 over x squared looks like this, and the coordinates for this point here would be x, comma, and then if you want to know this height, you would put it into here. So the height would be 1 over x squared, and then the coordinates for this point here would be this much across, which is x plus h, and then if you want to know this height here, you would put this into the x. That will then jump to the graph, so the height will be given by this. So our job is to work out the gradient of this tangent line at x. So we want to work out the gradient right here, but before we can do that, we need to work out the gradient of this secant line. So the gradient of this secant line would be the height divided by the base. Well, the base is h, and the height here would be given by this take away this. Hang on. So it would be x plus h squared take away 1 over x squared. So that would represent, this whole thing here would represent the height. You might be wondering, why do you take away when this is well, it has a negative gradient because it's going downhill. You can see that it's going downhill. Well, just imagine this in your mind. Imagine this height here is 3. Just imagine it has a height of 3. Just imagine this height here is a 7. So this thing here would give you the number 3 because it has a height of 3. So 3. And then you take away, and then just imagine, well, 1 over x squared would be this height here, so that would be 7. So you can see that it's negative 4. So you can see that this height here, I know it's a height, but you can imagine it's negative 4. And then if you divide it, let's just imagine this h here is 3. Then you can see that is a negative gradient. So if you ever get confused with this thing here, imagine this to be 3, imagine this to be 7, or 7 take away, 3 take away 7 will give you a negative number. That's why the gradient is going downhill. It's a negative gradient. Well, anyway, this height here is this height here is given by this. So now, hang on, let me just clear this up. So now we know that this represents the height. Then we've got to divide it by the base. So we've got to divide it by h. So let me just erase this 3. So we've got to divide it by the base. So that would be h divided by h. And then we've got to take the limit as h tends to 0. So that would then give us the true gradient, dy by dx. So working out the gradient at this point turns out to be us evaluating this limit. So now imagine this as 1 over h, and then 1 over x plus h squared take away 1 over x squared. And the reason why you can jump from here to here is because of this. Hang on. Imagine you've got a fraction within a fraction. So just imagine you've got a over b as one fraction, and then you divide it by c. So here you've got a fraction within a fraction. So you can rewrite this as being 1 over c times a over b. So really it's just one fraction multiplying another fraction. So hang on, we are currently here. Wait there. We are currently here. So we can rewrite this thing here as this, as 1 over h times our numerator from earlier. So now just rewrite in this form. It makes life a bit easier. So now we've got to work out the limit. So merge these two fractions together. So in order to add or take away fractions, you've got to get the two denominators to be the same. So here you would times top and bottom by x squared, and then for this fraction times top and bottom by by this denominator, so it will be x plus h squared. So multiply that by x plus h squared. So now this times this will then give you x squared, this times this will then give you this, and then 1 times this will then give you this, and then this times this will then give you this. So basically we're just merging these two fractions together. That will then give us this. Now notice that the two denominators are the same, so we can merge the two fractions. So that would just be this, take away this thing here, and then the denominator stays the same. The denominator stays the same. So that will then take us to here, and then looking at this block here, multiplying out this block. Remember, the negative, the minus is on the outside. The minus is on the outside of that whole block. So if you multiply out this whole block here, it will then give you this. And then now get rid of the squared brackets. So that would be negative x squared, negative 2xh, and then negative h squared. That will then give us this. So we are now currently here. So hang on, and then these two blocks are exactly the same. They cancel each other out. That will then take us to here, and then now you've got two fractions. You've got one fraction multiplying with this fraction, so it's just top times top. That will then give you this, and then h times this whole thing here. That will then give you this. Because imagine this thing here as being one bubble, imagine this thing here as being another bubble. This is one bubble. So when you multiply these three bubbles together, it will then give you this whole thing here. Well, multiply these two fractions together, that will then give you this. So now, hang on. So now multiply this out. No, actually don't multiply it out. Where were we? We were here. Okay, we are currently here at the moment. If you look at this, when you're currently here, if you look at this, it is this h here that's causing all the problems. Because when h tends to 0, this will be 0, and then you're multiplying everything else, so the whole denominator equals 0. You're not allowed to divide anything divided by 0. You can't divide by 0. So you see, this h here is okay, because as h here goes to 0, this bubble here will just become x, and then you've got your squared here. It will just become x squared. This h here is okay. It is this h here that's causing you all the problems, because as h here tends to 0, then the whole thing here tends to 0. And you're not allowed to divide by 0. So we know that when you're currently here, your eyes are zoomed to this h here, and you know it's this h that's causing you all the problems. So how do you deal with this h? Well, if you look at the numerator, you can factor out the h, because here you've got two blocks. You've got one block here and one block here. H is in common here, h is in common. Factor out the h. So that will then give you this. And then later on, this h will cancel out with this h. So, well, just know that it is this h that's causing you all the problems here. So factor out the h in the numerator. That will then give you this. And then these two will cancel each other out, giving you this. So now we can take the limit as h tends to 0. So when you take the limit as h tends to 0, imagine this as a bubble. Imagine this as a bubble. As h tends to 0, this bubble here is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're in effect taking away 0. So negative 2x take away 0, it would be negative 2x. And then as this thing here heads towards 0, well, if you look at this bubble, x plus 0 would be x. So this thing here would be x squared times x squared. That will give you x to the power 4. Notice that nothing breaks down. You're not dividing by 0 at all. The denominator is never 0. So this whole nothing breaks down. You're not dividing by 0, so everything's okay. So this whole thing here will then become this. So now tidy this up. X to the power 4, so it becomes to the power 3. So dy by dx equals this thing here. Okay.